Your journey has been an interesting one up to here. You've questioned so much more than those around you. You've even questioned yourself as to how you could have grown into these thoughts. Am I crazy? When did I begin to think differently? Why do people in general appear so limited in their thought process? Rest assured, you are not alone. The world is slowly waking up to what you already know inside, yet can't quite verbalize. Welcome to the Spiritual Dope Podcast, the show that answers the questions you never even knew to ask, but needed the answers to. Questions about you, this world, the people in it. Most importantly, how do I proceed now moving forward? We don't claim to have all the answers, but we sure do love living in the question. Time for another hit of Spiritual Dope with your host, Brandon Henley. Let's get right into today's episode.
Hey there, Spiritual Dope. I'm on here today with Darren Prince. He is an international best-selling author of his memoir, Aiming High. He's a prominent sports and celebrity agent and global advocate for addiction and mental health recovery. Through his agency, Prince Marketing Group, he represents icons Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Jerry West, Dominic Wilkins, Chevy Chase, all these greats, right? I didn't meet him getting autographs or anything like that. Darren and I met recently at an event with Brandon Novak and Novak House, and I think that's somebody that you're fairly close with through addiction and recovery. And I said, you know what? I don't want to miss this opportunity to chat with somebody and share your story about all that you're doing that's so great out there in this space. So, Darren, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just kind of dive right into it. You're well known. You've worked with all these greats, but you've started with an addiction at a pretty young age, right? You started with an addiction at a pretty young age, and it caused a lot of havoc in your life. And now you've kind of translated that and transmuted into something good. Let's start at the beginning, man. How did you end up with some addictions?
I grew up, you would have thought, just a normal childhood, which I'd say for the most part, I had great loving mother and father and sister, but I was always verbally teased for being so-called special ed in small classrooms. And back then it was probably more ADD, whatever I was interested in, I gravitated to, and most of the stuff I didn't. And I think just that did a number on my psyche, my self-confidence, my self-esteem. So at 14, when I was in sleepaway camp and had terrible stomach pains one night, the nurse gave me this green liquid, and having no idea what it was for the pain, I took it, and walking back to the bunk within a minute, I felt like Superman. It's like all those feelings of inadequacies and low self-worth and self-esteem went away. I felt just as good as everybody else, just as popular, just as smart, and went to bed that night thinking nothing of it. But I, did all the activities at camp that next day. And I remember just lying in the bunk that next night, obsessing on that feeling, and I wanted more of it. And I did that for a couple of weeks until mom and dad came up visitation day and found that I was taking liquid Demerol.
Yeah, what is Demerol, Darren?
Demerol's an opiate. Demerol's probably most likely something they'd give you in the hospital, like more of a heavier opiate. Back then the opiate epidemic wasn't anywhere near what it was today. And I had a way about me too. It's this innocent kid that was just in a lot of pain, and she was probably just trying to give me relief every night, or I was getting these bad stomach cramps, and I just played it to the hill, just like I did when I had my wisdom teeth removed a few months later. And my mom gave me these white pills that were called extra strength Vicodins, and that same feeling came back. And when I saw the bottle had 2 pills left, I put on the crocodile tears, cried, and said, we got to go back to the dentist. I have a bad infection. I know it. Something's wrong. And panicked as a loving mother took me back and gave her another dozen pills, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's crazy too. It's such a young age, right? And those are some, that was your thing, right? Like kind of like Demerol and opiates and
opiate. Yeah,
pills,
I did everything: cocaine, ecstasy, you name it, acid, whatever it was. But
sure,
when I eventually became an agent, opiates were the ones that took me up and then took me straight to the bottom.
Sure. Let's walk our way into the agent space too, right? So here you are. Age 14, you're already a script chaser, right? But you've also got some cool things going on. You made mention that you're you were in like these quote unquote special ed classes, you needed a little bit extra attention to get through teaching. You had a chip on your shoulder, but that actually led you into something, kind of cool, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started a mail order baseball card company long before the internet boom, and became nationally recognized, doing trade shows all over the country. First person, I think, in the state of New Jersey to have a cell phone. It was called Bell Atlantic. It was in a big leather carrying case with a battery pack. The phone cost me about $3,500. That's how tough they were to get, and about $3 a minute to use the phone. And the dumb idiot that wasn't going to go anywhere in between class was going into his locker room dealing with stockbrokers, and a bunch of guys from ESPN were buying from me, some of the big commentators that were big collectors, and I would just broker deals. I had an incredible network, a database of dealers around the country. I was advertising the biggest trade shows. I would go to the best conventions, get the best locations. I was spending thousands a week on advertising myself. I became a very well-known figure in the baseball card hobby and the boom of the 80s. So for any collectors that are, listening now, it actually started in the 80s, which is why there's an industry there is today. And by the time I'm 16 years old, man, I'm probably making $250,000, $300,000. And school didn't mean anything to me. I came home from school and it was about, the hustle of laying out my ads for the next week and filling orders and hiring, some of the so-called friends that were calling me idiot and dumb. They were now calling me boss at 16 and 17 years old.
Right.
And, and then from there, eventually I sold that company at 19. I dropped out of college my freshman year at Bridgeport and went full steam ahead into the memorabilia business. I was booking autograph signings for Muhammad Ali, Magic, Chevy Chase, Joe Frazier, Pamela Anderson. And by the time I was 24, built that business, had some legal issues, and it was kind of this turning point in my life where first time I ever had some financial difficulties, and Magic stood by my side and said, "Hey, I know all about making mistakes." He was coming off his HIV announcement. The anniversary of that was November 7th on Monday. And what do you want to do now? And because of my dad giving me the inspiration of explaining that it's who you know in life, not what you know. You work with the most iconic people in the world. Go speak to Magic. He supported you, and he became the first client for my agency.
No, that's pretty awesome. I love that. Well, give me a moment here. Like, how did we translate from, and first of all, like, I'm just in my mind, I'm thinking of like mail order catalog. I thought you were just going in and setting up the tables, doing the shows. You were taking orders. I had people taking orders, calling in. I'd buy the stuff on the weekend, sell it during the week, and knew exactly what I needed to find on the weekend to fill orders, mark it up, make a profit, and get it out the next week. That's awesome. And you were making what you were making. This is what is the 80s? Is that right? Like mid 80s? Oh yeah,
in 86.
So, I mean, I told my son right now, he's 10 and he's already feels like he's done with school. And I told him, like, when he makes his first $1 million, feel free to drop out. Right. Like, go ahead. So you go from this card business bit, and it's working out really well for you. You sell it. How do you make the translation over into, signatures? Like
I'll tell you what happened. And it's funny because, one of my agents here in Matilda, I was telling her the story earlier. I think the sexiness and the coolness of being around like some of the biggest stars that were doing these autograph signings at conventions, it drew me to it. And, again, that insecurity, brokenness, like, cards are cool, I'm making money, but they're cards. And I kind of just more or less went into the autograph signing thing because I was like, wow, I have an opportunity to book my first autograph signing with Muhammad Ali, the most recognized human being on earth. And, for somebody with low self-esteem and, was always high, and to be around that environment, it was just unbelievable. And then I just think my appetite grew. From there, it was the same sort of thing. Well, autograph signings are kind of cool and hanging with them, but I won't be this autograph booker for signings. I want to do big things. I want to do endorsements, commercials, and that's how that evolved.
You wanted to level up, and this whole time, you're popping pills, right? You're doing whatever it is
during the autograph signing era, which the company was called Prince of Cards. That was the same name as the card company. I was partying, whatever it was, you name it, I did it. But when I became an agent, I learned real fast with magic what a morality clause is. When the lawyers put together an agreement, I was like, all right, I got to play this straight.
Right.
I had sciatica, had anxiety, and hey, like any good drug addict and junkie, I played it to the hill. You know how easy it was to get any script that I needed when I'd get him on the phone with Joe Frazier or bring him a Magic Johnson signed jersey, or
Sure.
they're like, this guy's got it all together. He's in a lot of pain. Go get an MRI. Go get an X-ray. Let's see how we can fix you. Let's do medication management. And for the first 5-6 years, man, of my agent life, you know, it worked. It really did. I became a rock star with networking, but I also say it like this, like what was once living to use turned out to using to live.
Yeah.
And I just don't know when it turned. And I do remember the night I lost my superpowers. So I remember when the Oxycontins didn't work at an event with Joe Frazier in Dallas, Texas. And probably for a good 6 or 7 years, I was trying to chase that high after that.
Yeah. And you know, you talk a little bit about this insecurity and brokenness, right? Like where do you feel like that stemmed from a little bit, that it was encouraging you to
really
use?
Was like, I can't blame my mom and dad for it. And my mom, I came from a family with a lot of love. You know, my dad had tough love, but was always my biggest supporter. My mom gave me way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people could understand that, because, you know, that caused anxiety to leave the house and not be around them all the time. And you know, there's too little and there's too much. And she overwhelmed me with love, where it kind of, you know, like I said, caused an excess amount of anxiety with the over coddling, knowing that I was special ed and needed special attention.
Right.
And I think it just had me very uncomfortable, and I had to deal with life if I wasn't, you know, attached to her at home with her and my dad. And we'd get homesick a lot if I'd sleep over at friends' houses or birthday parties or weekend getaways. I remember just a horrible feeling in my stomach, just not being comfortable being away from mom and dad. And, you know, you take all that into the real world with the verbal teasing, and you don't speak up about those words of dumb and idiot. I hate using the word that begins with R for mentally challenged. I heard all these things. And when you absorb that in those developmental years, guess what? You start believing it, especially when you don't put it out. And I didn't have the courage to speak up.
Yeah, in the 80s, you know, I grew up in the 80s too. Like they weren't kind. They were not kind. No. So they like, you know, now I think so. It's you know, gratefully for my children, it's a lot. It's better, right? It's different than what it was then. But there was very few teachers really stopping that from happening too, right? Yeah. Hell, it could be the teachers.
Believe me, back then, like I had a teacher. I won't mention her name. I'm sure she's not even alive anymore. U.S. history. 60 kids in the class. I remember it like yesterday. And you know, it's a level of psychological trauma, nothing that, you know, is something I've been healed from, but you remember it. And she taught the first 90% of the class their test. And I'm in the back with 4 or 6 kids. My friend John, Angelo, Gabe, this girl Joy. I'll never forget my crew, Carmen. And we called ourselves the R-only group. You know, people can figure out what word I mean. Joking around about it, but again, I'm actually taking this joke.
Right.
But she handed everybody else their tests. She shouts in front of the entire class, "I'll get to you guys in the back row with your test in a minute. Let me just take care of everybody else first."
Wow.
And even the tone was speaking to us in a way that we're less than. We're not as smart. We're not as good. And you remember that.
Yeah, it
remember
cuts.
This day, here we are 40 something years later, and I'll never forget it.
For sure. So when you're, you know, drugging, when you're pill popping, when you're drinking, you're trying to forget that piece of who you are.
I'm trying to forget that piece of who you are, but I'm also, there's a great revelation on Jay Shetty. He's a dear friend of mine. I was at his place on Sunday, that I made it to the top. But I'm looking backwards at all the people that said I wasn't going to make it. Sure. Usually when you get to the top, or somewhat, it's a fake top. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors to it. I didn't feel worthy of being at the top of the industry, around the biggest stars in the world. And so my thing was, always look backwards. Look at me, look at you, the dumb, ugly one, the dumb, scrawny one that wasn't going to make it. Look at me now, look at you. You know, and it was that way when I was 16. I remember when I would just go to bed at night laughing, because my dad was like, "You're making more money than most of your friends' fathers that have that are lawyers that have real career. I'm like in bed, like, just celebrating this. And
And why? And what kid wouldn't, right? At that age, for sure. That makes sense.
And that was all that deep rooted insecurity, that verbal teasing and just that feeling of less than. And my mom thought it was funny sometimes when she would hear me on the phone. Oh, I can buy and sell this person backwards and forwards. And she thought it was hilarious, but it came from a deep place of insecurity and resentment. And I was like, how funny is it this guy's going to go to college, Mom, for the next 4 years and paying off loans, and for the next 10 years when he gets out, and I'll already have more millions put away. And she'd be like, I'm so proud of you. It wasn't like a corrective thing. It was just, so I think all of that, though, when I look back, it was just such a deep level of brokenness and, inadequacy that I just always had to prove. And then now here I am at the top of the industry with Magic and, Ali and Frazier and, Pamela Anderson and Chevy Chase and Smoking Joe Frazier. It's a recipe for a disaster, man. And the looks started coming, and I started developing and working out, and the girls start coming left and right. And
sure.
I'm just freaking doing whatever the heck I gotta freaking do to uphold this image that my entire class is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Darren Prince made it bigger than every single one of us. Prince is this world famous agent that's on the sideline of the Super Bowl and backstage passes and walking the red carpet at the MTV VMAs and all these big award shows. And, I just ate it all up. I thought that's what my calling was meant to be. And, I needed it.
Your big driving force was
I needed the expensive sports cars to be driving an Acura NSX souped up at 21 years old that cost me $200,000.
Cool
and
car.
First person to buy a house and, the jewelry and the diamond Rolexes. And now I look now and this is me. I could go out and buy a new Rolex tomorrow. It's not what makes me happy.
Sure.
Anymore.
Sure. Well, let's get there, right? Like, so where's the drugs wear off, right? You realize you lost your superpowers on one night, right? You go to pop the oxys and they're not doing what you need them to be doing. What happens then? Do you panic? I mean, where's it all?
Yeah, I panicked. I went down to this corporate event in the conference room, in this ballroom, and couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. And the next day, the same thing happened. And I'm in Florida by myself 2 days later, and I found a different way to ingest it that gave me a little bit of a buzz. I started snorting my oxys, my Percocets, and my Vicodins. I kind of mostly lived that way for another 4 or 5 years. Had an overdose in Las Vegas. Came back after that overdose finally in New Jersey and called an addiction psychiatrist, told me I was an opiate addict, put me on Suboxone, but never go to a therapist and lie to him like I did, because he didn't know I was taking Xanax and Valium and mood stabilizers and antidepressants and anxiety, every anxiety pill that I can get my hands on, and snorting Ambien before I went to bed at night, and still drinking a couple days a week. And my God awakening came on July 1st, as you heard that. My uncle Stu, may he rest in peace, and his then girlfriend Andrea. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired at the jumping off point. My ego was too big. I'm too important to go to rehab. I can't lock myself up for 30 days. And she just came into my condo at the time. I never met her, and it was a godsend. She's like, I've never met you, but are you okay? And I told her everything. I never had such an honest conversation with a human in my life. And I just felt drawn to her. And she looked at me and said, do you realize you're an addict that your life's so manageable? I see that. She goes, do you realize that you're powerless? I said, yes. And she goes, all this. She starts looking at all the photos on the walls with all the celebrities and awards and different things that I've gotten. She goes, none of this means anything because you don't mean anything to yourself. Do you realize that the disease of addiction does not discriminate? It doesn't matter if you're from Park Avenue or Park Bench, or if you've gone to Yale or jail. And that broke my soul. And here I am, the so-called big-time super agent. I just broke down and cried. And she goes, it's okay, honey. She goes, I just celebrated 5 years sober last week. And pulls out a 5-year coin out of her pocket. And she goes, do you want to get sober? You want to do anything it takes? I said, anything. She goes, you have to put this before everything in your life. I don't care what it is. If you lose the business, you don't want to lose your life, but you can do this. And I can show you the soft areas you're right in this beautiful life. And yeah, she put me on a 36-hour detox plan. And the next night was 7:00 on a Sunday night, July 2nd. I came back from the gym. I was living at the Caroline building. I was married then, and came back from the gym. It was my third workout of the day. I'm trying to do everything I can to get the dopamines going and the endorphins.
Sure.
And came up, I called him. I said, I can't freaking do this. I'm going to call the doctor. I got to get what I really got to get. My uncle starts yelling on the other end and said, it's the goddamn disease talking. It's time to kick the crap out of it. You've been doing this since you were 14 years old. He was in recovery as well. He was back in recovery. He struggled for years until he passed. And I said, I can't freaking do this because you have to get yourself to a damn meeting, put your hand up and tell these people you're sick and suffering, you need help. And I hung up the phone. Ran in the bathroom. I shut the door. I'm going to a medicine cabinet looking for Klonopin or some other non-narcotic anxiety meds to take the craving away. And out came 2 Vicodins out of one of the pill bottles, which was just shocking because Simone and I, my ex, we spent hours going through all the medicine cabinets 2 days before 36 hours before when Andrea said, you got to get them all out of the house. I'm weaning them off Suboxone. And I thought it was the gift. I thought it was exactly what I needed, man. That was a God moment in that split second, just what I needed. And the miracle happened because I fell on my knees for the first time in my life. I never called out to God like this before, and I've never done it since. I pray every single night to him now. And I said, God, take the money, take the notoriety, the business. I don't care. I need a single day of freedom to feel like little Darren when I was a young kid again. I'll do whatever it takes. If you take me out of hell, I will spend one day at a time, the rest of my life, using my platform, taking others out with me. The exact words that I said. And it was like a lightning bolt because this shoulder was literally felt like somebody had a blowtorch on it. And I heard in this ear a voice say, I've got you and you're ready. And I stood up and this hand opened. And I flushed the opiates. And I went in the living room onto the computer. There's no Uber back then. And I searched 12-step meetings near me. And I found a church. It's a little ways away in the upper 80s because it was late at night on Sunday that had an 8 p.m. meeting and jumped right in a taxi cab. And I looked up on this gorgeous summer night of July 2nd, 2008. And I said to myself, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. What the heck just happened? And I walked into a church basement, 150 to 200 addicts, alcoholics that were at once of a hopeless state of mind. And later said anybody new coming back, sick and suffering or struggling. And his hand went right up and I know he lifted it. And I came clean in front of a room full of strangers. And it just came out. I said, I'm sick, I'm suffering, I'm suicidal, amazing life. And I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but I need your guys' help. And, in that moment, I had the gift of desperation. And I was crying out to get the power of choice back in my life. And these people, about a dozen spiritual brothers and sisters, right after I said that, which was so key, came over to me and started kind of talking to me intimately in a soft toned voice, not to disrupt the meeting. And they said, you're in the right place. We've been where you've been. Keep coming. If you want what we have, do what we do. Take the cotton out of yours, put it in your mouth. We will love you before you ever learn how to love yourself. And then the one that was just magical, they said, keep coming to AA. And don't worry about if you get it. Because if you keep showing up, AA is going to get you.
Nice.
And that was it. I felt in that room during that hour, man, a connection that I never felt in my life. Ever, Brandon. It was just, I heard things. Oh my God, I do that. Oh my God, that's me. Oh my God. And it was like this out-of-body experience where no therapist, no drug. I literally felt it was almost like the dark side of me clearing out of my body. Yeah. I became immersed and obsessed with meetings. Nothing came before my in-person meetings. I did the 90 and 90. I eventually got my sponsor, Steve Delaval, who just celebrated 35 years. And once I hit that, probably 6-month mark, he goes, you're doing pretty good. He goes, I just got to tell you, you want to keep this gift, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, we're doing step work. I'm going to wrap up the steps probably by the end of the first year. I'm not rushing you through it because your drug addiction wasn't rushed. Your substance abuse wasn't rushed. But once we get there, you want to keep this gift that I'm giving you, you better be prepared to give it away to others. And once I started doing that after that 1 year mark, hope and recovery began.
Yeah.
The healing, the clearing.
I love this, Darren. Like, I think that, you know, if I look at this through, you know, parts of this through just general spirituality, that part where you flush down the pills, right? You opened yourself up to receive, you know, the higher power, right? You let it come and through you. You surrendered, like you're like, I can't do, like, I'm not doing this life anymore. And you recognize this like power of choice. I love that you bring up the power of choice. You realize that maybe that had been taken away from you for a moment, or because of your addiction.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to say, like, I want that back in my life.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about you know, what it, you know, for somebody that's not familiar with step work, tell the group a little bit about it, because I think that one part of it, and I'm not a stepper, Darren, so I just happen to be, you know, familiar with the space, and I've gone through the steps without doing the steps, right? So it's really cool to see, like, oh wow, what I did is in alignment with this thing. So tell the audience a little bit about it if they're not familiar.
You know, the 12 steps, I actually emailed my girlfriend, Nicolette, a couple of weeks ago. You know, she's young, and like anyone at any age, really, but especially young, is working on her own clearing and healing and stuff. And my whole point to her was everybody can use these every single day.
Yeah.
Alcohol is only mentioned in the first step for a reason. There's a reason over 212 step organizations around the globe have been adapted from a Bill W. and Dr. Bob created on June 10th in 1935. You know, it's about admitting a powerless, that life has become unmanageable, whatever area there might be. It's about coming to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. It's about taking your own personal inventory. It's about making amends to the people that you've harmed along the way, but also in a way that you don't harm them or others. It's about continuously taking your personal inventory.
Right.
And when you're wrong, promptly admit it. No matter what area of recovery you might be in or healing, we have to be vigilant every single day. And then, you know, it's about retaining that constant contact, and whatever that area of recovery or healing that you've attained and achieved, giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
That is the magic. That's what has given me the self-esteem.
Yeah.
That, with all due respect, I love them to death. They're dear family friends at this point. Magic, Hulk, Ric Flair, Charlie Sheen, Chevy Chase, Carmen Electra, you know, beautiful people. They never gave it to me. I got it from my spiritual brothers and sisters, and I get it every time I give this away to somebody, because I have a God-given gift, and I've kept my word. Anybody that works with me sees it. There's not a single day that goes by. I still might not get to in-person meetings as much as I used to. I'm doing that more. I'm still doing Zoom meetings, but there's not a single day that I'm not doing something connect with somebody in recovery. You know, I'm on the board of Banyan treatment centers. I do whatever I can to scholarship people there. I've gotten people into Oaks Recovery. I've gotten people into Novak's house using funds that I've raised from my Aiming High Foundation. It's the greatest thing in the world, because I'm not just giving them an opportunity to get a new life. I'm helping every single human in their life to benefit of this person getting their life back. And it's the greatest feeling in the world. I could lose all the money tomorrow. I could lose the business tomorrow. I wouldn't live in this beautiful place in Brentwood, but I found me. I found me. And the heartbreaking part about all that, if I ever lost, like I said, is everybody that's so near and dear to me that I do whatever I can to take care of and make their lives better financially. I might not have that, but Darren Prince is going to be all good. I mean, you're going to be speaking of the same Darren Prince that through his pain found his purpose.
Right. No, I love that. And kind of what you're talking about there is you ever seen like that image where you know, one match strikes and lights another, right?
Yep.
That's, what you're doing is helping others to light themselves up and see kind of the truth of who they are, the power, the connection that they've got.
When that this one gets me emotional because I've had so many that have been just mind blowing. When I see the lights come on in somebody's eyes,
That's it.
yeah.
That's when you realize kind of what your purpose is, right?
I was with my dear friend Jen Cohen last night. She has a huge podcast, Habits and Hustle, one of the top 10 business podcasts in the world. There's Mark Cuban. I just, helped her out. She got him, and she's had Gary Vee and Eric Thomas, and she did a podcast that was out of the Middle East. These guys reached out. This guy Bo Hawkins for me and her. Oddly, we had no idea. I went the first day. She went the second. I had the entire crew, including the host, in tears multiple times through the interview because he had something similar, not with the drugs and the alcohol, but he understood the brokenness. He understood the looking back. Spencer, the host, and she goes, "You have no idea. When I got there, I was like, why am I even here? All they're talking about is Darren's." They're like, he had every single one of us in tears.
Right.
Like, he took us to a different level of accountability and recognizing either flaws or what we've been through, because I think that's what God wants me to do. I'm not afraid to tell people at all mistakes I've made and continue to make, and my character flaws and my character defects, because it's a free feeling.
Yeah, liberation.
And for 99% of this world, I think it's smoke and mirrors, and everybody's got something that they're trying to cover up.
Like me and my background right here. I'm trying to cover up my background right now, Darren.
I say it. I don't know. I'm like, man, I don't know if you put on a little bit of weight, you're trying to hide it or something, but just to be able to have that for the first time in my life, and just to be able to be me. And this is it. I still make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I make better quality mistakes. I can still lash out, and this mouth can get me in trouble, or texting or emailing. But I'm way better than I've ever been. I tell people, try to say what you mean what you say. Don't say it mean. Try to understand people instead of you being understood. I think in the heat of an argument, for anybody listening, and you're about to open up your big fat mouth, don't engage. And it's better to feel all right than right. Even if you know you're 100% right, the strength is keeping your mouth shut. Don't send that text. Don't send that email, because in 5 or 10 minutes, whatever you're about to explode about, forgotten like that. And that's how you build your spiritual presence. You build discipline. That's how you build that change of character defects to staying in alignment to manifest to your higher self.
For sure.
And I've gotten so good at that. Again, not perfect.
Yeah.
Matilda here will heard me with my mom a handful of times. It's not easy.
Sure.
My girlfriend will tell you, but I am so much better than I've ever been. I'm aware of it. I'm vigilant. I have to weigh out, take a deep breath, which is why I'm looking forward to working with you on
it'll be fun.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Is this worth it? There's also, in recovery, we say we're not doormats. Occasionally, like my sponsor, Steve Deval, told me, things have to come out a certain way, but you'll know if you're right and wrong when you're in recovery if you have that emotional hangover. There has been times I've had to put people in their place. I'll hang up the phone, go on with my day, not even think twice about it.
Sure.
And in those moments, I know that it was something that had to be done so people can understand the way I expect things to be done.
For sure. Right. Yeah. I mean, I like that not being a doormat part. I think, could you help maybe say to be of service, but not a servant? Right. Because I think that a lot of us, especially when we find that we want to be of service, right, and go out there, we can tend to let ourselves be taken advantage of, but again, become more of a servant than of service. Can you explain a little bit of that difference there?
I think there's a huge difference. I mean, I say you got to become selfish to be selfless. And the truth is, again, we're all trying to better ourselves. We're trying to feel better about ourselves, not externally, internally. So if you allow yourself to not be of service, but be a servant, you're still not in a place of living your higher self. You're a yes person. You're being told what to do. You're not living the life that you want to live. You're not standing your ground and living the purposeful life. And you have to speak up. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not motivated by fear." No, fear is a great motivator. And if you're in a place where you're uncomfortable, speak up, because the more you express yourself, that's where the growth comes in. But if you allow people to keep shitting on you and mistreating you, if it's your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, sister, coworker, what's that going to do? You're going to freaking go home and just feel like crap. It's going to just blow out your self-esteem. If the situation's not right with your husband and wife, sit down and talk about it. Go to therapy. Do whatever you got to freaking do. Don't turn a blind eye to it. If you're in a relationship, same thing. If there's a coworker that you're not getting along with, that's just bringing out that bad energy every time you see them, pull them aside and say something. It's life's too short. People don't realize at any age, that history teacher that I had, it can happen in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. And it's a lot harder to get rid of when you get older, because our lives get so busy and so crazy that if you take it in and you don't do something about it at our ages, man, health issues, mental health issues, physical, emotional, spiritual, not worth it.
No, so you're all torn up. So you wrote a book called Aiming High. You put a lot of this information in there. And you've also taken that book and the Aiming High notion, and you've created a foundation out of that. You want to share a little bit about that? Again, kind of going from, this sinner into saint. And for those of you that don't know too, step 12 is what you brought up, right? Giving it to others.
Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of the 6 steps.
Yeah.
We try to carry this message to other alcoholics and people that are sick and suffering to practice in all their principles and all their affairs.
Sure. And so you're doing this now in part through your Aiming High Foundation. You want to share a little bit about what that group does?
Yeah, so the foundation came about when I wrote my book in October of 2018, Aiming High, which Anna David was my publisher, Chris McGinnis, my brilliant writer. I got to give her all the glory, even though she gives it to me. She's the one that wrote the masterpiece. Within a week and a half, became an international bestseller in England, Canada, Australia, and the US. And, we got like the Amazon Award and all these great accolades that came from it, but none of it was ego driven. I mean, I just knew this was God, giving my purpose. And my dad passed a year earlier. I told him in the hospital, I was blessed that he had me back for 8.5 years sober. And I said, I'm going to touch the world. I'm like, this experience of what I had to deal with the past 32 days. And of course, it was 32 days he lasted after he went into the hospital with an aneurysm, was Magic Johnson's jersey number from the Lakers. And so Irvin, who I call him by his real name, thought that was beautiful. And I just looked at him and I was like, I never felt so comfortable during the most uncomfortable time of my life, like up there with Joe and Muhammad, Grandma, Grandpa, Uncle Joe, Uncle Alan. I said, you're going to look down. I said, Daddy, I'm going to touch the world, not only with this experience, but with this gift. Because I need people to understand that you can't get through the roughest times in life and not have to drink, not have to drug, not have to numb. And it just took my spirituality to a whole nother level.
For sure.
And to be able to hold his hand and say goodbye, and just these crazy, I call them GMCs. My friend Bruce R. that passed away was so near and dear to me, my spiritual brother. A couple of years ago, I used to call them GMCs, God-managed coincidences. Yeah. But then 2 weeks, I got a call that I was going to be honored at New Jersey's largest drug and alcohol rehab center. I invested a ton of money and time into being a professional speaker. I knew this was just going to be a big moment, not just for me, but to really carry the message to the general public and try to help people. And that night went so fantastic. Literally the next day, the rehab got a call because they streamed it on Facebook from Dr. Oz's executive producer that they wanted me on Dr. Oz the next day with Daryl Strawberry. I went into the city, went on Dr. Oz, talked about recovery with Daryl, and who's doing an incredible job himself. And literally right after Dr. Oz, I got a call from Rona Graff, who was Donald Trump's executive assistant forever. I think she's still with him. Donald Trump is a dear friend from Celebrity Apprentice, from having Dennis Rodman on there, Brandy Roderick, a bunch of clients. I did a bunch of work with them. I got to see a different side to him. It was a sweetheart, loyal, always donated to the rehab center galas that I did.
Right.
And they wanted me at the White House.
Wow.
Of all freaking things, for him to sign this $8 billion opiate epidemic bill.
Wow.
And, to start talking to teens around the country. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And then my dad always wanted me to write a book, Brendan. And I didn't feel comfortable writing about the agent life. I always take a lot of my stories, they're between me and my loved ones that I trust, and my clients, myself. And I met Anna David on Instagram one day, a few months after that. And I guess she saw something about, I hashtag recovery and the White House and opiate epidemic. And somehow we linked up, and I saw her that December of 2017, which was probably about 8-9 months after my dad passed. And talking to her just like I am with you, she goes, your story's unbelievable. She goes, I'm in recovery. I was like, I had no idea. She goes, yeah, I've been in recovery. I wrote a couple best-selling books. I think it's time you write one. She goes, I have the angle. I know you said your dad always wanted you to write one. She goes, take people on the fly on the wall journey of what it's like to be the agents, the most iconic stars of all time, while you went deep into hell and came out the other side. And we looked at each other with tears. I said, that's it.
That's powerful.
I said, that's the hook. And so anyway, when the book came out, man, I did so many speaking engagements, and I noticed that there was opportunities very limited in that short window of people that actually had such a deep connection with. There was high school kids where someone come over to me, put their hand up during the Q&A, where I knew I had an opportunity right then and there to help them. There was adult audience, galas, corporations, where people were they had that moment of clarity. And I'm like, I need to start a foundation, man, because if I can grab somebody and their lights come on in that moment and they can't afford it, and I could say, I could help you.
Right.
Go home, pack your bag. I have a car coming to get you. It's going to take you to the treatment center tonight and check you in to get the life you deserve. And that's how Aiming High Foundation came about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, you've gone from, this broken, scared person, even though you had massive success, came crumbling all down, and now you've rebuilt yourself. And I always look at spirituality as you recognize the truth of who you are personally, right? Like, I mean, you see the core of who you are, and you're looking now to help others to find that in themselves through AA and through your foundation, through the work.
Yeah, man. And my friend Jen and I were laughing last night. I was like, I didn't get sober right Aiming High to make money. I didn't do it to build my brand, which I think just by default, business is better than ever. I'm a consultant with Bannon. I help people, get in there when they can't afford it. I'm part of it's this incredible group now, Bridge Therapeutics, that has this revolutionary, 100-time better Suboxone that hits the system in 10 seconds when Suboxone, when I was on it, took 15 minutes.
Right.
And I'm a voice for them. And I know it's going to, get people off methadone and like all these blessings that I've been a part of, because, I've had I've had the foundation in my business, but, like Jay Shetty and I was talking about, man, I had no idea that a byproduct was just the agency life. God knew all along that when I was ready. Hulk Hogan always has an expression. He gave me the testimony for the back of my book that's just so powerful, and said, July 2nd, 2008, brother, you asked God for the blessing. And he said, you've come to me correct. Now it's time to make you a blessing to others.
Yeah. Love it, man. And it's like, it's just like you said, I always look at, the universe provides before you need the things, right? So the universe it's gave you this agency and this platform so that, like, when you got to this space, now you're able to leverage that to do what it is that you're doing right now.
Exactly.
That's awesome, Darren. Darren, what's next for you, man? What do where are you headed? What's going on?
I'm low on the travel for the next 3 weeks. Thanks God, me, my girl, her mom, and my mom, both our moms are flying out for Thanksgiving, just lying low. We have so much, great business stuff going on. But, for me, the stuff that really gets me excited is recovery. Get back out there and speaking again, and, write my next book, which should be next year. raising whatever money I can from our foundation. Like I said, Bridge Therapeutics. I just can't wait to get this thing out to all the treatment centers and people that are suffering. And Banyan, we'll probably have another gala coming up for Banyan next year, fundraiser. That's the stuff that really gets me excited. I mean, and I got my dog on a personal level, Rodney. It's the love of my life. It's football season. Hopefully my Los Angeles Chargers can turn it around. Their record's okay, but they stink. They're all banged up and injured. So I do what I can to get my own, personal enjoyment and have time to check out, with my girl and her dog, and, work out 5 days a week, still taking care of myself. And
Nice.
That's it. But I think, it all comes into alignment when I put this first and when I help people.
Yeah, I love that too. That this is first for you. And I think that's very profound, and hopefully that's something that some others take away as well. Darren, man, I appreciate you coming in here. Like I said, we kind of bumped into each other at Novak's house, and I, wanted to have you on and be able to share this story with some other people. I appreciate you being on. Where can others go?
We're going to link up on Saturday.
What's that?
We're going to link up on Saturday.
That's right. 100%. Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be, even that's exciting. That's exciting for me that, you're interested in the work that I've been doing over there has been just kind of, makes me feel good, right? Kind of like the way it's like what you're talking about. If you can go there, you can get some people to see and connect with themselves and put some type of gap in between this anxiety that they're feeling, right? And let go of everything around them, and just being able to do that for a moment, especially as they're making this transition from off the streets. Some of these guys, I mean, these are fresh.
Exactly.
And if you can give them that for a moment, man, this last one was super powerful, very excited. But again, man, looking forward to us this coming week and weekend, and this has been a lot of fun, Darren. So thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Where should I send people to find out more about you? How can they contribute? Where can people go to help?
They can find me on Instagram at agent_DP. The foundation website is aiminghighfoundation.org. Got my own personal site, official DarrenPrince.com. And for people that are intrigued by the agent life and whatnot, the business site is princemarketinggroup.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren.
All right.
You got it.
Thanks, man.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Spiritual Dope Podcast. Stay connected with us directly through spiritualdope.co. You can also join the discussion on Facebook, Spiritual Dope, and Instagram at spiritual_dope. If you would like to speak with us, send us an email through brandon@spiritualdope.co. And as always, thank you for cultivating your mindset and creating a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking part of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and trust your intuition.